We're now live. All right, come on. All right, we're live everywhere. All right, cool. Hey everyone, my name is Sean Fuller. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Comics. I'm your host, Sean Fuller, and this show we'll be diving deep into the minds of comic book creators, storytellers, world builders, shaping the future of indie comics. Today, I'm excited to be down with another creator who builds not just one, but five massive universes spanning sci-fi, fantasy, methodology, and military action. Joining us is Ron Von Blake, the artist behind Ancient Illustrations and an explosive first contact space odyssey featuring aliens of pure light. And then we have Nyumbani Chronicles, a sword and soul saga inspired by Orisha mythology and a set in the alternative dimension, teeming with magic, conflicts, and destiny. Broadworks blends rich world building with social commentary, culture, cosmic intrigue, high octane adventures, and today we're going to be unpacking the journey behind it all. So let's all settle in. This is going to be one of the good ones. Let's welcome Ron Von Blake to Behind the Comics.
How's it going? How's it going?
Thank you. All right, so we need to start. For those first meeting you for the first time. Can you tell us a little about who you are and how you first got started in the storytelling?
Well, yeah, as I told you guys, as actually you said, Rod Van Blake is my name. I was born in Rochester, New York, raised in Chicago, played basketball at a small school in Minnesota, and then ended up joining the Marine Corps, and that sent me to California. Did my basic out there, and then went, and my first duty station was in Okinawa, Japan, before coming back to California, and that's pretty much where I started reading a majority of the books that I started getting into. I was reading heavy into science fiction and fantasy books because I like Star Wars, and I was getting ready to rotate back to the United States.
Okay.
At the time, Phantom Menace was about to come out, and everybody said the book is better than the movie. So I said, hey, let me check out, a couple of the books. I thought there were 9 books. Turns out there were hundreds of them. So I dove into that universe, and I got to reading so much because Lucas Books actually had a bunch of authors that wrote for Star Wars, not just one or two. So I started looking up other things that these authors had written. R.A. Salvatore, Michael Reeves, Kevin J. Anderson, Timothy Zahn. And I found works of those authors in other genres, in fantasy and other things that they had written. And I got to the point where I was like, yo, I've read so much of this crap. I wonder if I could write one of my own. So I wrote a short story that was Star Wars. And then I realized that that's not my intellectual property. That's somebody else's stuff. So you need to write your own. So I started with the idea of ancient illumination, which is ancient beings made of pure light, and then they come to Earth. And then that kind of extrapolates out into what that interaction would be with cavemen and aliens and then mutants and things of that nature.
Before we even jump down the rabbit hole, right? I was going to say, what sparked your interest in sci-fi fiction and fantasy as a genre? How did that shape your kind of early culture? Because I know you traveled a lot for military. You kind of got the exposure to Japanese manga art. So, and they kind of have a different kind of statement. So now you stop back into sci-fi, which is stuff. So what kind of got you fixated in that kind of specific genre?
Star Wars. That's what got me as a kid, growing up watching the Star Wars films, a lot of the Star Trek TV shows as a kid, cartoons, the Lord of the Rings books, the Lord of the Rings films, things of that nature. And I just wanted something that I felt like I could fit into. So I wanted to write in those genres because those are what kind of piqued my interest. And then it became kind of a curiosity thing. Like, I like these things, they're cool, but I wonder if I could do and partake in the things that I enjoy.
It's funny, right? Because normally they would ask like, who was your big influencer in terms of authors, filmmakers, or creators? But it seems like Lucasfilms, which is Star Wars kind of stuff, and yet this Star Trek Adventure stuff, is kind of where everything for you started,
Yeah,
um, in terms of the sci-fi methodology.
yeah.
So, but here's the thing: so sci-fi is very specific in term, especially when you talk about film. So so were you would you say you're more of the you started off on the creative process with before comics and before novel? Were you like doing creative work? What was it before like?
I was not doing anything creatively. I was, like I said, I was a communications in the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
I was doing security jobs. I was a security supervisor for a casino in California. Uh,
So
it
that's
had nothing to do
interesting.
with creative. I was the furthest thing from a creative at the time.
That's and I'm glad you shared that story, right? Because a lot of times people think that they're too far removed from the industry to think they can participate in it.
Yeah,
And so you don't have to be an artist or creator or stuff. You can literally because I'm IT, right? And so my background isn't in writing,
yeah,
but I love stories and I love reading it. And
yeah.
so it's kind of the reason why I like the fact that you brought it because you came from a military background. I have a few military persons that I interviewed for this series already, and they have a military background. And it's the fun thing I find in the military is like when they perceive it, the stuff they have a very metallic, a very straightforward way of doing stuff that removes barriers to entry, which is gonna be fun because we're gonna talk about that
Yeah.
in a few. Um, so since your background, let's talk about ancient illustration, right?
Illumination. Yes.
Illumination. I don't know why I keep saying illustration, and then I'm looking at it. What was this original seed of the idea that eventually became this military sci-fi space
It
opera?
was basically the idea of aliens made of pure light, and then timing of 68,000 years in the past. So we're still in the stages of being cavemen, so Cro-Magnon. Like
Okay.
what that interaction would be like. Like how would that go off? Would they be skittish? Would they run? In my mind, like yeah, they would probably run away from these balls of light coming down on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have to adapt themselves to become more approachable for mankind, and then
Mm.
things just kind of evolve from there. And then I didn't want to stay there. I wanted there to be technology. I wanted there to be spaceships. I wanted there to be. This was my reasoning for why we have energy projectile weapons,
Okay.
spaceships, things of that nature. The mutations that happen are a result of these aliens being here. So it was basically me rationalizing how things would move forward after we were visited. And that was kind of the seed that I had to kind of build upon to keep the stories going and then
Okay.
create characters. Yeah.
So that's interesting, right? Especially when I think about sci-fi, especially when you think about it from alien civilizations, right? I'm always some of the basic ideologies that they like to put in there is the concept of zero interference, right?
Mm.
So the concept of aliens make up pure light is incredibly unique. And what made you what is actually think about what inspired this race and this theme behind this arrival on Earth? What made you think about it that way?
Well, I was thinking that they would want to come teach us and we
Okay.
would learn from them. And then, of course, one of them would have an adverse opinion of mankind and think we were too stupid. And so he would get bored and experiment with us. So that would be like the initial conflict of him
That's
being like, these dudes are too dumb. They're not going to get it. We're wasting our time. But since I'm here, let me just play around a little bit. And that kind of gets him in trouble. And for that, they exile him and punish him and force him to stay behind and teach mankind.
what
Yeah.
I could see so many different stuff, and plus he has to blend in with the humanity, so he has to basically evolve alongside them, which would be very interesting
Yeah.
from his standpoint.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really blend in necessarily. His ability to change into pure light form is taken away, but he can still change form. So he basically plays God or gods to many different people around the world. So
Exactly.
that's my rationalization for why a lot of religions are so similar, because in my story it's the same person playing for different groups of people around the globe.
And it's funny because I initially thought Christian background in terms of the hours of light forming not necessarily Christianity, sorry, not Christianity, but the concept that everyone that studies different ancient civilization is the concept that there's always similarity between each of them. So I kind of just felt that when you were talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's the similarity there, because then someone can be like, oh, that's the I would call it the connection between what we're reading about in a fantasy novel to what I've seen in like people's stuff. So it's kind of interesting, and I like that the concept we did there. Your
Yeah.
series is heavily so here's the thing. Your series heavily features military action, strategy, interstellar conflicts. How did you approach building these elements, realistically speaking? Because there's a scale to this, right? You're basically taking a very ancient but advanced civilization, you're shrinking them down to Earth's level understanding. So how you make this kind of realistic so people can follow the build up what goes with this?
I don't think it is necessarily realistic. What I think a lot of it will be is relatable.
Okay.
Since I was in the military, there is military jargon, there are attitudes,
Okay.
hurry up and wait, getting screwed by the big green weenie, as they call it, when you get kind of screwed over by the system. Those attitudes kind of resonate regardless of where you are, what branch of service you are in, the bureaucracy of it, in addition to the fighting part of it, I think is relatable. The technology, the fighting, and that stuff is things I kind of make up. I don't necessarily think any of it's realistic. And if you get like an astrophysicist together and go over the space travel in it, I'm sure they're going to find a ton of holes in
We,
everything.
but they haven't done it yet, so they can't really see.
Yeah,
But I was gonna say that's kind of sells the point, right? Because if you're taking stuff that you're relatable in your real life, like you understand military jargon, for example, and you put that in the comic books, people can basically say relate with it better because they understand the military some stages of it. As the
yeah,
same say, you know, everything don't have to be 100% correct. You just need to
yeah,
be close enough.
yeah.
So, who's your favorite character to write in this book? What makes them stand out to you?
I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite character that I've written in Ancient Illumination. But the character behind me, Jared Omega, is the king of the Kisan Askari. They are that's
Mm,
Stone Warrior in Swahili. So they're basically mutants that develop sort of an exoskeleton. They have a calcified skin that allows them to
mm.
mine and go to other planets with heavier gravity, crazier weather conditions, and they're able to survive better than regular mankind. So they end up going off planet and mining, and then the technology that we have here on Earth is only available because of some of the resources that they get off planet. So when they
Mm.
come back and want proper compensation, they're not given that, and that's part of what starts a conflict between the mutants and regular men. So
Uh,
that's kind of analogous to a lot of things that have happened in the world before, where people are working and not getting compensated properly for their contribution to society. But they're some of my favorite characters to write the interactions to kind of come up with. Um, I would
okay.
say, yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about Nubian Chronicles, right? So Nubian Chronicles brings us into an alternative realm ruled by Osha, right? Am I saying it right?
Orisha,
Orisha. All
yeah,
right. Thank
Nyumbani, yeah, Nyumbani means home in Swahili. So that's like my home chronicles, my stories of home, because Nyumbani is basically almost like an altruistic Africa. It's
you. Okay.
the Orisha are the gods of West Africa from Yoruba, the Yoruba
Okay,
gods.
the Yoruba.
So,
Okay.
and they basically get tired of what's going on here in the Milky Way, and they create their own dimension. They create their perfect world, but it's filled with magic, dragons, magic users, and
I
trouble starts there, and they kind of have to figure out why trouble is starting on their world that they've created.
okay.
Yeah.
So now we have a sword, a soul is a unique and powerful subgenre. What drew you to that style of fantasy storytelling?
Well, we get in a lot of the fantasy tales that I've liked, we get the same gods or similar gods.
True,
It's if
true.
it's the Greek and Roman pantheon of gods, it's the Norse gods.
Hmm.
If they do touch Africa, it's usually the Egyptian pantheon of gods. So,
True.
and the funny thing is, I've seen
Horus.
Orisha pop up more and more now. But when I initially started writing this series, they weren't as prevalent as they are now. So I just wanted a different take on fantasy. I wanted a different perspective, basically.
And it's funny you brought it up, right? Because I remember one of my friends, he's a white guy by the way. He was talking about the storytelling of Africa versus the storytelling in Western world, America,
Yeah.
and how it's like seven different genres of storytelling in America or Europe, Western universities versus in the African continent. There's well twice that. And the funny thing what I was saying is like one of the other stuff they brought up was also the concept of there's different power stacks, and these power stacks between like Christianity, we talk about angels and devils. Then you have Greek mythology. Then you have these other power stacks, right? And the issue was always everyone builds to those.
Mm.
So the mere fact that they said, you know what, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. I'm gonna go to our ancient African roots and go with the African story, the methodologies that come from that continent was uniquely beneficial for us because at least that tells us that we're not, this is not a story you read before or used
Yeah.
to at least. So I
Yeah.
appreciate so I appreciate that. So how do you balance? But here's the thing though, you're building off not so well known storytellers or background. So people don't know these guys for the sake of argument. They don't know Nigerian or Yoruba storytelling or backstory stuff like that. It's tales. So how do you balance methodology influence with your own original lore when constructing this world? Is what I'm basically into.
Okay. It's more of a mix because I'm not truly thoroughly versed in the gods and all of their history and lore. So basically, I'm using their names, and with my artists, we've begun basically creating our own likenesses. We've seen depictions of them. You know, you can look it up and see what a picture of Shango is supposed to look like, or Oya, Bablu Aye. We can look them up and see their visage, how they've been portrayed previously. And I like the aesthetic. I like basically what people have this fever for anime and Japanese characters. I want the same thing for African characters. I want
Exactly.
people to be able. I was so cool a couple years ago at BlurredCon. I think I forget his last name. Wendell came dressed as Olaroon, one of the guys that I have on the cover of one of my comics,
Mm,
and he showed up to BlurredCon in full Olaroon cosplay, and we took pictures with him. I like that. I like the fact that he took the time to make the costume and come out and dress. I want that for us. I want more all the weird stuff that happens with black folks and people of color that cosplay these characters. People just all the vitriol that spit at them because that character's not black.
yeah, it's funny when people say that, but it's also not white. But why you keep
Yeah,
bringing that up? It's
and
like
like,
they
but
only
now,
expect to play these five characters that you guys to throw us to us.
yeah. So now we have characters that they definitely are black, and the flip side of that is I wouldn't care if anybody else cosplayed as them.
Exactly. That doesn't make. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I've been paying attention to the cosplay space right now, especially with the young lady that passed away caused recently, and it was literally a conversation of why is it so hard to see us in the same thing? So might as well just build our own thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And I wanted to create a world where we weren't the exotic character that you don't know anything about. This character just looks cool. He's different. He or she is different from the other characters, but we know absolutely nothing about them. I wanted to create worlds where we could be the gods, we can be the demons, we can be the heroes, we can be the villains, the magic users, that we're everybody.
we're not a character. We actually spend the gambit.
Yeah, we run the gambit the full spectrum of characters, we are all of them. And so
Mm.
there are plenty of roles for everybody to have within this world and not feel like you're being shoved to the side of being just this weird side character that they have no real knowledge of.
Okay, okay, that was fun. All right, we're going to switch it to our next section right now. We're going to the creative process. But before that, I need to pay some bills. So if you buy me 5 seconds as I play this commercial, and then we come right back to it.
Got it.
This video is sponsored by mycomic.ai, the first of its kind platform built to solve real struggles comic creators like us face. If you've ever felt stuck trying to make consistent sales from your work, this is your solution. mycomic.ai helps you turn your comic into a real business and grow it into a full-time income stream. Check it out today at mycomic.ai.
All right, thank you very much. After finishing that, now let's go into this actual part I like to talk about, which is the creative process, right? So, what does your writing process looks like? Are you like heavily an outlining discovery writer or something in between? How does your writing process go?
I spend a lot of time on my outline and doing research before I get to actually writing. So I'll write
Mm,
out an outline from A to Z of what the beginning, and then I'll figure out what basically a vague ending for the story, and then I sit down and start with A, and I will try and drill down A for a chapter, B for the next chapter until I'm done with the book. And in between that,
mm,
when I get like right now, I'm kind of struggling. I'm working on the third novel in Nyumbani Chronicles.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I'll do a little bit more research, and then I'll once I'm hoping that that research kind of jogs my mind into writing mode, and then I can get back into the outline and continue the
Okay.
chapter that I'm currently working on.
Do you find yourself sticking to your outline, or you see yourself that drifting apart once you start writing?
I stick to my outlines.
Okay. See, the
Yeah.
military guys be sticking to stuff. Like,
I mean,
plus
because
you.
if not, then you just kind of spinning your wheels and going in circles. So I want to go down the line and get those. And sometimes I'll come up with scenarios that aren't in the outline, and then I got to figure out where I can fit this cool scene that I
Exactly.
want to be a part of this chapter, and I basically have to go through and see where it makes sense in the timeline, and then I stick that there. So yeah, I
Okay.
pretty much stick to the outline.
So across two major universe, how do you keep your world building consistent and organized then? Well, I'm talking to a military guy, so
Yeah.
I've answered.
OneNote is what I really use to keep my. It's an app that I can
Okay.
keep in the cloud, and I can work on it from my phone, my tablet, my computer. So when I come up with ideas, I come up with a different definition that I've looked something up. Also, yeah, that's the thing. I have to keep definitions of things to make sure that I know what it means, and it means the same thing each time, and it's spelled the same each time.
Mm.
Microsoft OneNote is what I lean on heavily
You
for
know,
my outlines.
I know it's funny. I've run into that specific problem. Especially when you like even with names of characters. You'd be like, if you don't have it outlined or written down somewhere, eventually you'd be like, who is this character we're talking about? Like, why does it have the same name as this one? It's funny. So hey guys, just have an organizing reference manual. We call it a dictionary for a reason. Just have one. And this is me talking to the audience. Um, so what challenge have you faced in bringing your story to life, and how did you overcome them?
Time and money is the largest obstacle. You can have a zillion ideas, and if you're not organized or have a rigid schedule to get these things out, life will get in the way. That was the biggest obstacle initially with me moving from California to New York to Virginia. I finally, actually, when I got to Virginia, I finally settled down
Mm,
and finished the first book, I think in 2015. It got published in 2016. And then I caught a rhythm of writing novels. The next book came out in 2018. 2020, book three came out of the sci-fi series, and then the pandemic hit. Uh,
mm,
and and people kept asking me, "Where's the comic?" 'Cause I had art, but they didn't want to read these. They saw a book sitting there, and they would tell me, "Yo, story sounds dope. I'm not reading 300 pages, and be honest with you. Can you draw it for me?" But I can't draw. So it took us a couple years to find an artist, and 3 years down the line, we bumped into a guy named Jordan Jackson. I liked his art, and that's the other thing. It's expensive. So those are the two obstacles. It's going to be time, and if you want it done right, pay your artists and get the work done. That's the thing. Like comics cost money to produce, and those are the two obstacles that I say is going to be the biggest things. Unless you have the talent. If you have the talent to do both, then your only issue is going to be time. But if you don't have the talent to do both, then you're going to have to spend the time writing, and you're going to have to spend some money getting the art done.
And I'm just for the audience. That's consistently always been the biggest challenge as we starting off, right? Is the time and the money. You either have too much time but don't know what you're doing. But when I say if you have the time to figure it out, or you don't have the time, but you have to then find the money. And sometimes people don't have the money for it either.
Yeah.
So what we always say is get to a percentage of completion before you even talk about even doing crowdfunding or anything like that, because people want to know that you can deliver on what you're doing. If you've never done, I have nothing to show for it, it's not going to be there. So the good thing is, if you're going to go down the rabbit hole of going down this process, just know that there's going to be a two limitation. Either you're going to have to figure out the time, or you're going to have to figure out the money.
Yeah, I've done two successful Kickstarters, one for the graphic novel for the sci-fi series, and
Hmm.
one for two comics in the fantasy series. And I needed that money. But right now, my goal is not to even come to Kickstarter until the project is already finished. I don't want it to be where I need that money to complete this project. I want it to be the project is already done, and now we're going to use crowdfunding sources simply as
A
a
print
platform.
for a print run.
Yeah, just to launch it,
Okay.
but it's already done. Like some people, if you don't get that Kickstarter, you're not finishing the project. I don't want to be in those shoes.
It's fun. Actually, I was gonna go down to that conversation, but
Yeah.
that is also a very true statement, right? I've also met characters that's like they're fun. If it doesn't get funded, it doesn't get built,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like that ruins it, because guess what? There are people that's on the platform that actually intend to do this, and they're competing against someone that's not really caring if it
Yeah.
gets done. It's diabolical. But anyways, so I'm gonna ask you a question now. We're going to like the industry. We just talk about publishing. So let's get into publishing, right? So what was your journey been like navigating indie publishing as a sci-fi fantasy creator?
I started off with basically a vanity press. Book Fuel was the first company I was with publishing,
Hmm.
and they were basically, like I said, a vanity press a la carte. They offered cover editing and other services, and then they would upload my books to Ingram, which is the largest distributor of literary books. So
Hmm.
for Ingram Spark, and eventually they went out of business. The company, not Ingram, but Book Fuel did.
Yeah.
They couched it under, we're giving the indie authors more responsibility so that you can decide what channels your books are distributed to. But the real was that they were going out of business, so they had to transfer all of our current novels into our own account so that once they went down, we could continue publishing
Hmm.
and distributing our books. So then I had to learn to do a lot more,
Hmm.
than I had previously. So after they were gone, that was pretty much after my second novel. My third novel, Ancient Illumination 3, Godhood, was my first fully published by me.
Hmm.
So in 2021, I created an LLC, Mahali Pengine Entertainment LLC, which is my publishing imprint. And then I also started publishing the graphic novels and the comics under that same imprint. So now everything is in house under my own banner.
LLC. Got it. So that's a very interesting start. You start off with working with a publishing house, a very small publishing house, and then when they went away, you had to do all the work that they were doing. So you just basically created the business around yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and I always, and it's kind of funny because when even someone comes to me and asks me if I can help them build it, I'm always thinking about a different standpoint of is I'm building it from day one so that you can move off yourself. Right? It's not a conversation to have later.
Yeah.
Um, how have you No, sorry. How have conventions, signs, or community events shaped or grown your readability or readership thus far?
The in-person conventions have become the lifeblood of my business, and I didn't know
Shoot,
how
talk
much.
about it.
Well, I was advertised when I first started. I only had one book. I just had this one novel. That was it. No comics. One book, paperback, hardcover. This was it. And having a marketing degree, I was advertising in Asimov and Locus magazines, which are science fiction, fantasy focused magazines. Now, Locus magazine is about 70,000 readers nationally, ages 12 to 60, and they purchase around $1,000 in books annually. So I figured, oh, that's great. I'll take out an ad in this magazine, and then everybody of those 70,000 will see my book, and I will make this $300 a month back. Well, it didn't work out that way. I was getting a little bit of money, but I was not getting 300 back. And Asimov magazine, similar situation, was 250 a month. I was getting some money back, but I definitely wasn't making 250 and 300 a month from those two magazine ads. So
And that's post profit. Are you talking about revenue or that's post profit?
just period. I was
Okay.
investing 250 and 300 in this ad. I was not receiving that same amount back.
I know that feeling.
So I was basically on the ads, I was losing money every month because I wasn't getting that back. And then so when we moved to Baltimore, Baltimore Comic Con 2017 was my very first in-person event as a vendor. The table at the time was $250. I scrounged and purchased like 80 something books, and we almost sold all 80. I made around $700 something.
Wow.
So, yeah, the wife and I was like, hey, we think this is the way to go. Let's start looking up more events like that. So we started putting together a like a Google sheet or Excel sheet and listed events, when they happened, which month, how much the table cost, how far they were away. We started doing research on the foot traffic. So if we couldn't find anything online at their website, you go to maybe Facebook or some of the socials and see how many followers each event had. And so we got a good book of business of potential events. And eventually we started going, that next year we went to 4 events. And then the year after that, we went to 7 events. The year after that, I think we went to like.
And you're always making back table when you went to these events.
Yeah. We were. The goal was to double or triple table each time. And the closer the event was, the better. The further away the event was, then the more risk it was for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started doing really well, and then the pandemic hit and shut everything down. So that's that's the reason why I did that first Kickstarter, because we could not go to events.
Okay.
So I was like, well, since we can't go nowhere, this will be our event.
It's funny, right? Because everything you talk about is stuff that I did in the app that I built, right? Because it's like everything in terms of figuring out if this is the right event for you, and then figuring out all the costs and association with it. It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
And even crowdfunding part is a lot of work. So I find it very fascinating that you kind of went down this rabbit hole and started trying to sell online, got into in person, and then all of a sudden it clicked.
Yeah. Now the puzzle piece I'm trying to get is to figure a way to equate my online sales with my in-person sales. So if I go to an event for the month and make $3,000, how can I generate $3,000 worth of sales online without setting foot into a convention center? That's the sauce I'm trying to work on now.
The question is paid versus organic marketing when it comes to that conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand, because that's also one of those. And I mean, a few people, some people have solved that problem. Some people are still working on it. And most people are still working on it because Facebook and Google, in terms of being very good traffic generator, can send you traffic, but doesn't necessarily mean qualifying traffic.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're closing. That means you got somebody to go to the website.
Yeah, and then for some people that actually knows that process, they're very hard to get in contact.
Yeah.
Or not cheap to get in contact with them, put it that way.
Yeah, and always mitigating cost. Like now that we've gone, like I think last year we did 19 or 20 events. So now it's all about mitigating costs. We're doing the same thing over and over again. We're trying to make it better and become more efficient. So how can we spend less money getting to this event and make the same amount or more money each time.
each time. All right. So, for creators interested in launching a novel or a comic stream, what lessons have your production experience shaped? That's why.
Getting the hardest thing is getting the work done, but once you get the work done, you're not finished. Most creatives don't think of a lot of the business
Like admin
aspect.
side.
The business side they don't think of. Like, oh, I've created this great thing. Everybody's just gonna come and love it. Like, no, first you gotta create it, then you gotta let them know it's exists. If no one knows you exists, then how can you make any money off of it? And
I
also depends on the person individually what their mindset is. Some people, if you're creating just to create and you're having fun creating, that's a totally different conversation than I'm trying to make money doing this. And I think a lot of people don't have that conversation with themselves.
it's I would maybe because of my background specifically, it's kind of like I understand that plight when as a creative, right? As a creative, you tend to start off about by making the thing. You're kind of product oriented, to say the better thing. And eventually you get to the point where like I enjoy creating the thing, but the what it takes from me, both time, money, and costs.
Yeah.
If I'm not able to recoup that, I can't keep loving it the same way. It's like a good dessert. As if you eat it
Right.
every day, it start losing its feeling. And what I'm hoping eventually happens, especially in this space, is that we figure out a way to kind of streamline the process so that everyone doesn't have to feel that, I'll call it that bitter taste that comes with never actually paying attention to the admin side until it was admin time.
I don't think it necessarily has to be bitter. I think you can absolutely enjoy yourself and do it for the enjoyment's sake.
Okay.
I'm just saying if you're going to do that, then leave it as that and enjoy yourself. I can sit here in my man cave down here and create and have an awesome time going on my own personal journey with these characters. The
Mhm.
difference is I was curious, number one, whether I could do it. It started there with curiosity. Then I let some friends and other people read what it was that I was creating. And that's kind of what helped spark
That's the
things.
fight.
Other people enjoyed the thing that I created. So now I'm like, okay, these are a handful of people, and these people know me personally.
Mhm.
There's the difference. It's like you're the best thing since sliced bread to your mama because your mama loves you and you came from her. But now it's time to put that to the test when there are strangers out in the world that have no clue who you are. If they ingest what it is you're creating, will they then enjoy it? And if that is a yes, then there's an opportunity for you to
Then
find
there's a
those people.
market there, and there's something there.
Yeah.
And the way someone said is like this: that if they can sell butt scratchers, you can sell a book. It's like it's just another skill you have to learn. At the end of the day, it's just another skill you have to learn as a creative person.
Yeah. I call it finding your tribe.
What
Find the people that like the things that you like.
Yes, find the people that like what you like. So let's. So we have two more sections before we wrap up, right? And so my next thing I'm going to talk about is what's next. So let's talk about your upcoming project, Ancient Illum. I don't always screw this up. Illuminations. Is it Ashomilium How do you pronounce that?
Amicio Membri.
Thank you. Basically,
it's all good.
What can fans expect about this next installation?
Well, this is a side story. It is not a part of the mainline story. The graphic novels, the two that are out now, are basically these two graphic novels are basically the first 4 chapters of this book in illustrated form, and they're done by Jordan Jackson.
What?
Yeah. So what I'm doing right now, Brad Hudson, he's the chairman of fine arts at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. He's also a illustrator. He's worked with Star Wars and DC on sketch cards and other things also, but he's illustrating this comic. It is one of my recon units that they're codenamed the Mechanics. In the back of this first volume graphic novel, we see one of the Marines lose his legs in battle, he gets them replaced by cybernetics. Omissio membri translates from Latin as loss of limb. So this is basically a group of people that have all lost limbs in battle, and now we get to go through the individual stories of the rest of his crew and see how they lost their limbs. So I think we're starting off with Berserker, which is a private first class who lost both his arms and legs, and he's basically a torso in a mech suit.
Oof, ooh.
Yeah, this is going to be I think it's going to be 3 or 4 one-shot comics just going through the individual stories of them and how they lost their limbs in battle and how they come to be in that unit.
So here's the question now, right? So what you're working across multiple universes. What future expansions or spin-off ideas are you excited to explore? Because that one does sound crazy to me.
Yeah, that's a spin-off. There's Jordan and I are going to work on a prequel comic where the engineering corps from the Marines go to Saturn to terraform their military base, because as we know, Saturn is actually a gas giant. There's no landmass to build on, so they have to terraform and build landmass to put a base
Wait,
there.
instead of maybe because I love Venus so much, I kind of thought about this before. So they want to put in land in Saturn, opposed to just build floating cities.
So they can have a base, because they're trying to fight these mutants. And the way they think they can train is go to Saturn, because Saturn has 10 times the gravity of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they become strong enough and have a military unit that trains on this place, then perhaps they can compete with these stone-skinned mutants.
Oh my God, it is insane. Oh, that's funny. What? Sorry. So I'm going to my final section. So when readers finish reading your story, what do you hope sticks with them the most?
The journey, the journey, and I hope a few of the characters. Maybe I'm hoping people have a variance of favorite characters they have that I might not have thought of, because that may be what fuels other spin-offs. There's a group of Jade assassins who basically have a flying theater that carry out contract killings during their shows. So maybe someone will gravitate to that group and will want to know more. And so that would be the seed that I need to say, okay, you want a comic for them, so I'll make something for those group of characters. So I'm hoping that that's what it does. I'm hoping that the audience fuels the next set of expansions after I'm done with the mainline series.
All right. So what advice would you give a new writer who wants to build their own world but don't know where to begin? As I told before, your quotable moment.
I would say don't give up. My very first podcast is titled "Your Idea is Stupid to Somebody," and that's okay. Like there are some horrible ideas out there, and if they've got their thing created, that we can get 6 Sharknado movies, then whatever idea you have is probably not too bad of an idea not to get in production. I would say don't give up. I would say be consistent and don't be afraid to be yourself, and just keep going, because the more voices that we have out there, the more individualism that we can have out there, so that everything's not the same. Because the big companies, I think, are so risk averse, which is why we get the same stuff over and over again. We need something different. Something's got to hit. Everything's not going to hit, but something's got to hit. So create.
It's funny that you brought up Sharknado, because I remember, I forgot his name. Shoot, I can't believe I forgot his name. But he always said there's never been a failed shark movie ever.
Yeah.
It's weird. Sharknado was like, we're gonna push that theory to the test.
Yeah, when I see those ideas, or somebody that back in the day, you're probably too young to remember when they came up with something called the pet rock, like that invention.
Yes, I know the pet rock.
Well, if that could make $1 million, then your idea is not trash. Whatever it is, it's just the execution of it. Guys.
The pet rock, the can of air. What was the other one? The people used to say, "Yo, there's certain business were not built about nothing, but yet it made millions."
Made millions. We need to find our own pet rock, man. Our own idea that seems like it's outlandish and dumb, but it's simple yet it makes money because people gravitate to it for whatever reason. So don't give up.
Don't give up, guys. That one you got me cracked up. Where can everyone find you?
AncientIllumination.net is my author website where you can go find all of my creative things. At Rod Van Blake on Facebook, at Rod Van Blake, all one word, on IG. That's mostly where I am as far as socials. I'm on TikTok and X too, but I don't do too much on there. So IG and Facebook will be the places you'll find me most active.
All right, no problem.
And my podcast, The Ascari Cast, is on Spotify as well. We talk about TV shows and movies and things of that nature. I think we're getting into Welcome to Derry this week.
Okay, got it. Guys, check that out. A lot of the information we talked about in terms of contact information is in the description, especially his author's website. And first of all, I have to thank you, Ron, for coming out today, spending some time with me, and actually giving us opportunity to learn more about your book and your world and everything that's in it. We appreciate, and as a person that used to work in the Veterans Affairs, I appreciate your service. And so, with all that said, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight. Stay in tune for the next episode that comes in next week, and enjoy your weekend. Thank you. God bless.
Appreciate it.
Okay.